right. I have here a sample of honey that I just got from, because it's my lead, I can just lick it. I'm not going to share it. Thanks. Thanks to Joreen Brands, who was just here. First time I'm testing authentic. Nimekuwa nikula tu sukari nguru huko kwa supermarket za Ruiru. But for the first time here, authentic honey coming through to me, and I'm going to be having the best breakfast in the next few days. If you missed that conversation with Joreen, please do tune in to KUTV Kenya's YouTube later. We'll be uploading it. Pia unaweza roll back on Facebook where we've been live, and you get to know how you can do a home test. Ojwang Mariam, ile asali yako inakuwa hapo chini, toa, do that home test, alafu tukipatana in a few, uniambie how it looks like. However, right now, we are getting into matters of inclusivity and the youth. Governor Sakaja was saying that the youth in Nairobi ambao wako na firearms and who are committing the various crimes or reported crime wave that is happening, gripping Nairobi County, wanampigia simu, they text him and say that mheshimiwa tuko na guns lakini Japata Youth Fund, Hustler Fund, we're not going to be giving them up. That's why we're getting into these criminal activities. Of course, we had this discussion in the newspaper review section earlier, and we really did hear Mika saying that, we should not be blaming our economic situation on the crimes that are being committed by the youth. But do we end the conversation there? Issues of drug abuse have also been very heavily highlighted on social channels. And the question again is, are the drugs the cause of the youth situation, or is the situation the cause or something that is leading towards the youth engaging heavily in drug and substance abuse? So some of those things, those are some of those causes or effects of involvement or lack of thereof of the youth in matters of governance. And I'm having this conversation detailed by the Sec-Gen of Youth Nation, who's joining me here on set for the first time, of course. Atuambie, what is it that we can do collectively as the youth, and how can we push our government to always involve us in the decision-making process? And if they don't, how do we squeeze ourselves into some of these tables that are there behind closed boardroom meetings? Gideon Gitonga, Sec-Gen Youth Nation, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're in full regalia.
Yes, I'm in full regalia.
You're looking so good.
Thank you.
I'm hoping, am I in your Sec-Gen peke?
In your Sec-Gen, but we have youth uniform.
Okay.
Yes,
so if you join Youth Nation, I can get myself some
yes. For
good-looking stuff.
We have over 7,000 members across the country. Yes, and we are bringing the youth into the entire organization. Yes, and I want to pass my regards to the president of the Youth Nation, David Duarte, who's supposed to be here, but he's in Egypt right now for climate action. Okay. Because the youth are key players when it comes to climate action, and we can see the effects of climate change.
And because the youth are the future, of course, it's going to affect them.
It's their future. It's their future that has been affected, because when you look at our fathers, they have not been able to take care of the planet, and right now we are suffering heavily when it comes to the effects of climate change. But on the flip side, we are the people who can be able to participate in climate action and be able to make an impact through innovation. We can be able to make an impact through science, through tech, and therefore we can be able to change the effects of climate change for us. So our president is in Egypt for that, and he passes his regards to the youth of the country. Yes.
That's great. Also, my regards to the president there. Please bring mini-sized pyramids for your Sec-Gen for this kind of representation that he's doing here on Biashara Tuesday. Now, maybe before we get into the whole conversation, what should be done, what has not been done, and what is currently in place, of course, for inclusivity of the youth.
Yes.
Maybe a little introduction to Youth Nation itself.
Okay.
What does Youth Nation do? How long ago did you begin? And what kind of inclusivity are you aiming for?
Thank you very much. So we started Youth Nation back in 2015, and we formed Youth Nation for the purpose of being able to represent the youth. So the objective is to be able to include the youth in the political space, include the youth in the economic spheres, and include the youth in their social welfare. So these are the key pillars and strategic pillars that we as Youth Nation focus our efforts on. So we want the youth to be included in every aspect of governance in this country. So if you look at what has happened recently in terms of the appointments of the cabinet secretaries, the nominations of the PSs, and probably the CSs that are going to be nominated, then we see that the youth have been disenfranchised. During the campaigns, the youth were the focal point of every campaign. They were supposed to be involved in governance, but when you look at the appointments, they have been skewed towards appointing youthful leaders. And I've said this before, that youthful leaders are not the youth. And the reason why we can see that the problems of the youth are becoming aggravated is because the youth are not on the table to help come up with solutions and craft and be able to present the issues of the youth. Youthful leaders are not youths at all, and they cannot represent our issues at the table. And therefore, the youth feel more and more disenfranchised, they are more frustrated, and therefore you can see the kind of issues that we have to deal with now when it comes to the young people.
They argue that the issue of inclusivity of the youth stems from the fact that they prefer, or governance prefers, a wealth of experience of a new energy that is coming in. Would you make a case for that?
Yeah, definitely. One thing that, and I said that the other day, that the youth cannot be experienced unless they are doing something. You cannot say you need 15 years of experience unless I'm actually doing something. And another thing that I said is, unless you're putting a dent on our education system, then that's when you can actually say that they are not qualified youths. We have seen youths who work for the big corporations, who work for Microsoft, who work for Google. We have seen youths who are running very successful startup businesses. They are managers of businesses. Are you telling me that you cannot trust a youth to be able to run government? Are you saying that you do not trust the same youths that you are edging upon to be able to run this economy and grow this particular economy? You cannot entrust them with making policies in government. So I call that a sham. It's a simple excuse not to include the youths. And I think the youths need to be included on the table if we need to have real solutions that are going to address the plight and the concerns of our young people.
Right.
The youth must be on the table.
Now, since we are not being included on the table,
yes,
as you've mentioned, the first 50 days of the Kenya Kwanza government have exposed that disenfranchisement of the youth.
Correct.
Promising them that we'll be including them in the appointments that are coming up.
Correct.
And we've seen the PSS have not seen any youth, of course, as part of the appointees. We are seeing here the vetting, which is currently happening, of the permanent secretaries. Correct. Also, very so much exclusion
Correct.
of the youth, right?
Correct.
And we are going to also possibly see the CASs. Since we have not been nominated, we've not been included in this table.
Correct.
The door has been closed. How do we knock it down?
Yeah, so of course this is what now we are doing very aggressively now, and I want to thank you for providing us an opportunity here. We want to advocate. Our voice is our strength. Our voice is our reason. We need to be able to raise the concerns, these concerns that the youth are not being included. And this is the platforms that you're giving to us to be able to address the government. If you want to address the youth problem, you must have the youths who are facing the problem. The person who is wearing the shoe is better placed to come up with proper solutions to be able to address these issues. For example, if you look at even the crime rate, we would agree, and we're not saying let us not blame the economic situation for the crime that we are having. Crime is bad, and Youth Nation condemns any young person who is involving themselves in criminal activities. May it be in Nairobi and may it be in North Rift. We are condemning by the strongest terms. But again, we are seeing a lot of youths who don't have jobs. When you talk about youth empowerment, then you're talking about career development, and also talking about SME empowerment, them being empowered to be able to do business. But if these opportunities are not there, if the solutions do not address the real issues of our young people, then you are going to get disenfranchised youth, you're going to get frustrated youth who are going to engage themselves in this kind of ill crimes that you've talked. Drug abuse, they are now involving themselves in crime. And as much as we want to deviate that it's from, if someone is busy working, if someone has food on the table, if someone has something that they do on a day-to-day basis, an idle mind is a devil's workshop.
Right.
We need to keep our youths busy, and we cannot keep them busy when we have programs that marry into their lifestyle, programs that speak to their needs. You can only have those kind of programs when you have a youth who is facing similar problems, crafting those particular solutions.
Right.
But when you have a senior citizen who has very cosmetic solutions for what the youth problems are, then you are likely to continue to have the same quagmire, because it's not that we have not had affirmative funds before. We have the youth fund, we have Uwezo fund, we have all these
All these have been there before.
but they are not solving our problems. And that's the reason why we're saying, have the youth on the table, they face the problems, they know how to solve them, right? And they can be able to craft solutions that marry into the lifestyle of our young people.
Right.
Correct.
According to reports, more than 60% of the youth who are eligible are restrained from running for political offices, whether it's through party politics on the grassroots level or even national bottlenecks that have been placed there. And we've seen that many of the youth are disengaging from democratic and civic engagements and activities which are meant to be, growing the country, but they are focusing more on professional careers. As you mentioned, very many young people are developers, they're working for Google, Microsoft, they're doing their own startups, they're starting their small businesses, and slowly they're disengaging themselves from the democratic process. If you can check the just concluded general elections as an example, voter apathy was mostly experienced among the youthful population. Now that the youth, of course, I've tried to push the doors open, I've tried to have a conversation, and I'm very happy that Youth Nation is also still picking up that baton and continuing with the conversation. How then can we get them back to civic engagement? Because right now, when you have a discussion with someone who's been beaten down by the system, they do no longer want to engage with matters of voting or participating even in civic engagements that will be of usefulness to the democracy.
I agree with you. The youths did not participate. 8 million people, a large percentage of them being the youth, never participated in our last election, because the youth feel that the government has nothing to offer them. The government is pure rhetoric and little of being able to do. And the reason why you see now youth are now turning to let me sort of myself there. Because there's really nothing that I can get from government. They're always saying that government is the same, they're still doing the same things, and nothing will actually change, even if we put whichever government into power. So one thing that we've been trying to do as a Youth Nation is to be able to educate our people that politics affects our lives. We agree that these people we elect into office, those that we are speaking to today, it's true they are not keen on solving our problems. They're not keen on involving us, but we need to continue pushing. We need to speak hope. We need to have faith that these people in power are going to listen to us, they're going to ear to our cry, and they're going to heed to what it is that we're actually telling them. We need the youth to be included. And the only way we can do this, it is not to throw our hands, but it is to have concerted efforts as the young people. And I'm shouting a warning to the people in government. We may be able to see a revolution because youth are becoming completely restless. Those that are lucky are able to get those good jobs that you're talking about. Those jobs are actually not even there. And those that are unlucky, they are now standing into crime. We are incubating a time bomb that we do not need to continue to do. What we need is to involve the youth. Let them feel their government. Let them feel that the people they have in government, the resources, 70% of the biggest expense in this country is by government. We need the youth to be beneficiaries of this. The government needs to be very deliberate in terms of the programs, in terms of its concern, and in terms of how it addresses the issue of the young people. And if not, this is a ticking time bomb because the opportunities that are available even for young people are very few. Many have no good and real opportunities. They are becoming desperate. They are becoming frustrated. We are seeing crime rates going up. We are seeing drug abuse go up. We are losing a whole generation. Climate change, the effects of climate change are making people sleep angry. And I can tell you, an angry man is an angry man. And it's going to be very, very, very grievous if the government does not take keen notice and involve young people. Young people, their experience. I'm the Secretary General of the Youth Nation. I'm just 30 years old. I'm a business analyst. I'm a financial analyst. I'm qualified.
And they will say that you would not have the qualifications.
No. I studied in Jomo Kenyatta University, got a first class in applied maths and computer science. If you do not believe in your education system, then what does that mean? That means that if you cannot give me a job, you are putting a dent on your education system. We are qualified. We can offer solutions. It is what we do on a day-to-day basis. Corporates and companies believe in us. I'm a business analyst. I provide solutions to businesses. They believe on so many other young people. They employ them at top positions. It is high time government believes in its own young people and gives them positions to create policies and solve the problems of the young people.
Right, because it will be impossible to create policies about people who you're not even involving in that conversation. And that's why we're seeing, as you said, a ticking time bomb. Crime rates are going up in Nairobi, and it's an issue on how exactly do we solve this. Is it an issue of the crimes, or is it an issue of economic disempowerment that they've been facing for such a long time?
Yes. So I agree with you. It's the differentiation, and one of the things that I would say, as much as we don't want to blame economic empowerment on the crime rates, and as I've said before, without a net of doubt, Youth Nation condemns any young person who engages themselves in criminal activities. We do not condone that, and we are not asking you to get desperate to that level, but our economic situation is a contributor to people being idle. An idle mind is a devil's workshop. When our young people have nothing to do, when they cannot put food on the table, climate change has caused devastating effects. People are sleeping angry. How do you expect a young person to be like that with all the energy that they have, not to go out and find alternative ways of sourcing?
Right.
If they're not able to go into crime, they go into drugs. You get it, eh? If those that are young married families, divorce rates are high, GBV rates are high in those families because there's no money in the family.
The hunger is too much.
The hunger is too much. So they are always angry. They are always fighting within the families. It is a social problem that needs to be addressed pragmatically.
Right.
Yes.
Definitely. Now, maybe to wrap it up, because I'm seeing also it's 9:50 in the morning. We only have 10 minutes before the close of this show. Maybe a final remark. How can the youth in the country involve themselves with Youth Nation? If there's an application process they have to go through, and what kind of expectations should they have as they join?
Okay, correct. So Youth Nation as chapters across the counties in the country, across the 47 counties. For you to become a member of Youth Nation, all you need to do is to write to us. You can go on our social media pages. We are Youth Nation on Facebook, Youth Nation on Twitter, Youth Nation on Instagram. You can be able to get in touch with us. You can also get in touch with us on 0769 337526, and you can become a member of the Youth Nation. Join the movement. Let's liberate our young people. Let's speak to our leaders. Let us engage them. Let them see the problems that we're going through. Let them involve us in developing and crafting solutions. And before we leave, I want to talk about the regulations that have been published for the Asla Nation. It's a financial inclusion fund that has been established, and we've seen the draft guidelines by the Treasury CS. We are saying that the fund is a good idea, but it's not about pumping money to the people at the bottom of the pyramid, using the same hold process that has been done, using groups and using chamas. We have young people who have developed innovative solutions. We have people at KU Chandaria Center who have developed perfect innovations. We have people who at USI incubation centers develop very good solutions.
Let's pump money there.
Yes, let us find ways that we can be able to provide bonds to our startups for them to be able to raise money from venture capitalists and equity funds. We are looking at solutions that will allow to bring foreign capital to fund startups here in Kenya and empower our young people to start businesses that are going to employ other young people. People have degrees but no jobs. It is frustrating to see a young man in Nyeri who is crying with a first-class degree in engineering, but he cannot get a job in this country because we are not giving the right incentives for our young people to innovate, to develop companies that are going to absorb the labor work of our young people. These solutions can be made, these solutions can be crafted by people who are wearing the shoe. The Youth Nation has 7,000 youths, and now we are growing to over 100,000 youths within the next 1 year because of the applications that we are now approving. We have young people who are wearing the shoes. We need them to be in positions of leadership. We need them to be able to be given opportunities to craft solutions that are going to address the plight and the issues of our young people. Join us today and let's change this country.
Right. Youth representation and participation in political and government administrative opportunities is what Youth Nation has been doing, advocating for the youth, for the rights of the youth. As we've heard there, of course, we need to take action and ensure that inclusivity is the biggest conversation that is being done on in those boardrooms. There's no way they can be making decisions about people who are not even included in that kind of conversation. Very energetic Gitonga, SecGen there at Youth Nation, giving us some of the guidelines or some of the tips he feels can be very helpful for the governance that is currently in place, but also for the youth who might want to be involved. And please do reach out to them. Social media channels, the number that he just provided, just roll back and listen to it. Call them and be part of the movement to include the youth in government and also political decision making. Asante sana Gitonga.
Thank you very much, sir.
Have yourself a very good day.
Thank you.
And please do come back again to tell us what the milestones are looking like.
Thank you. We are ready.
All right.
Asante.
Going for that break, alafu nikuje na... All right, so looks like we might not have enough time for me to take a break. So maybe I read the comments real quick. Ojwang Mariam anasema he has to take a ton of honey ndio decide which one is authentic. Of course, responding to that conversation we just had earlier by Joreen Brands on matters of agribusiness and healthy living. Also here I see Ian Dan Oyondi Malik anasema the lady is on point. Okenya concentrate. Nilikuwa nimeconcentrate sana mzee, don't worry. Thank you very much for tuning in.